Hi, thank you for joining. It's good to see you. My name's Crystal, and I'm the founder and CEO of Career Conversationalist. And we're here to continue on with the mini series for Finance Your Kids' College Education with $27. In today's episode, we are going to be talking about who else wants a list of scholarships your child can apply to. And the exciting thing about today is we're going to be talking about, let's start off with what is it? A list of scholarships is a lot of scholarships that are put into, someone else put the effort into putting them into an order for you to go through quickly. And this can be done online, it can be done on paper. It's pretty much a matter of someone else going out there, gathering the information and putting it together rather than you having to go out there and figure it all out and put it together yourself. Far as why is this important is because if someone else is putting together a list, that saves you time, that saves your family time because someone else already went out there to gather the information. And so it's a way of leveraging someone else's work to save you time. And then as far as my story, you may or may not know this, but I was raised over $70,000 in grants and scholarships to help pay for my own college education. And I learned through trial and error. A lot of at the time, I did a lot of searching offline as well as online, and I would like to say it was because I was studious and I was just a real go-getter, but the reality was the internet isn't what it is today. It wasn't as easy to look for things. Internet speed was really, really slow. It took a long time. There was pop-ups. The information wasn't organized very well. A lot of people didn't know about search engine optimization, so trying to find those sites that had really good information was difficult to find those. And then just people understanding the internet and how websites were put together was just a very different concept than it is now. Now we've had a lot of people test different formats and layouts to find out what works and what doesn't work. So fortunately, there's a lot of progress that has been made. So yes, it is easier to find scholarships online today than it has been in the past. But both still work as far as looking for scholarships online and offline. What I think is kind of interesting is that a lot of the local scholarships are easier to find offline. Actually, more recognized scholarships are all online, and a lot of those sites tend to have the same scholarships posted everywhere. So sometimes it looks like there might be more scholarships than what there is, or you just keep coming across the same ones online because people are really good at promoting certain scholarships for certain organizations. And a lot of online comes down to marketing. The scholarships that tend to get a lot of exposures are those where people have skills. So I learned a lot of things through trial and error, what works, what doesn't work. And pretty much you can benefit from my knowledge that I share in the scholarship challenge. All right, so let's go into where do you find a list of scholarships? There's multiple places. Offline, you can certainly go to have your child go to their high school guidance counselor if they have any type of career center or offer. A lot of times they'll have resources for your child where they might take a placement test to see what kind of career that they fit into. Any of those type of services, they usually have a list. There's also a lot of community letters, newsletters. You'll find a lot of information sometimes in the newspaper, people just sending information back and forth. There's a lot of community boards is also another really good place to find things. And so pretty much anywhere that's offline that you might see an ad is a place where you might also see a scholarship. Online, yes, there are websites that are dedicated to scholarships as far as like scholarship search engines, and you can put in a profile and it'll give you a list. Some of those will try and match you up only with the scholarships that are a good fit for you. Some of them are just a site that lists a bunch of scholarships, and you can certainly try searching for individual key search items like military scholarships and try and finding a website that specializes in that. Or you can just do a basic Google search for scholarships and you can get a lot of results. So there's a lot of ways to search for scholarships. Sometimes it's just overwhelming. And that's really what stops or slows people down is because everybody pretty much feels like, okay, I can go to Google and Google it, but very, very few people do it just because it's so overwhelming. So as far as where do you find lists of scholarships, for a lot of people, that's not too much of a challenge. It's more of what do I do once I have the list? Or how do I know which list is a better list than the other list? Or where should I focus my time on? Or which ones I'm going to be better qualified for? Or is this list, good for me, but it's not good for a friend? Or is it just a list where it's just not very good for anybody because of the information might be old? So a lot of those things, there are challenges when you first get into the game if you're not sure of how to get scholarships. Sometimes you might feel like um, either you don't qualify for it or you just might feel like you're not very good at finding them. And the trick is to really help your child find them quickly so that your child stays enthusiastic and wants to keep going. The other thing we're going to talk about is free versus paid scholarships. I have our list of scholarships. I have done both. It used to be when I was in high school, I remember my mom spent $50 for a list of scholarships, and I don't remember the exact amount. I think it was like 300 scholarships. She paid $50 for like a list of 300 scholarships, and I didn't qualify for any of them. So that was pretty disappointing. But I mean, it was nice to have a list to go through them, and there was some I thought that I would be able to apply to, but when I did some further research, I found out I wasn't. So when it comes to paid, like, yes, that is one form of paying. You can also buy books that have lists of scholarships on it. There's services out there that will find them for you. The free version is often online. But there's other things that you can do too. So it's just a matter of how do you get the information. And a lot of times what happens is if someone vets the information for you, meaning they go through it, they kind of figure out what are the good ones, which ones aren't. They'll charge for that because they're providing a service. And that can be a little challenging to tell the difference between that versus someone who's running a scholarship scam. And with that, they'll usually have, you'll pay, but they'll present it more like a return on investment. Like, yes, you're paying for the um, information, but it's really good information. Like they'll say something like you're guaranteed to get a scholarship. So you've got to be careful as far as scams to people's fantasies. As far as you really want the money, we'll make it really easy. Just give us a little bit because we're helping you out as a service. So sometimes it can be difficult to tell like what's a legitimate service versus what isn't. All right, so the next question is, how do you manage multiple lists of scholarships? And this is something that I had a really big challenge with, especially managing things online. Um, Online, there's a lot of different websites. You're like, okay, what's the best way to keep track of websites? Where do I keep this information? Um, and just remembering, okay, like even if you did go to a website and you started searching through it, it's like, okay, well, I only have an hour. Well, for me, I only had an hour. And then it's like, okay, I got to go take a break. I got to get off the computer. I got to go do something and come back. Like, how do I remember where I left off on a website? And so sometimes a website will have multiple lists of scholarships and they might break it up into categories. So for me, it's like, okay, well, I'm Hispanic, I'm a Latina. Like, that could be one list of scholarships versus me being a first generation student, which is another list of scholarships versus academic versus my college major. So there was all these different lists within one site that I could apply to, and you have multiple sites. So one of the reasons that I think kids don't actively participate online is because they don't know how to manage this information. It's overwhelming. So yes, it looks great, especially when you go to a college night or a scholarship night, career night event, and they give you this nice little piece of paper that has a list of different scholarship websites. People think, oh, I'm just going to go to that website, check everything out on that, go to the next one, go to the next one, go to the next one. But within the first one, they get caught up in this vortex of like, wow, how do I navigate the site? What do I do? How do I keep track of it? Not all sites are designed to organize information equally. Some of them do a lot better job than others. Looks good when it's on paper, but when people actually go to implement, that's where I find most people find challenges. And it's not the knowledge of doing it, it's I need someone to hold me accountable and make sure that they're teaching me the simplest system possible to have the most success in implementing. And that's really why I created this challenge, is because I want people to know what's the simplest next step that they need to take. So that's for that. And then as far as, is it easier to manage or a piece of paper when it comes to a list of scholarships? For me personally, I like to manage things offline. It just makes it easier if I have a printout and I can just cross things out. I'm very old school in that I feel more productive if I can look at a piece of paper and see, okay, put a bunch of X's on things that don't work, or I put a bunch of circles around things that do work. At a quick glance, I feel like I've been more productive than if I look at an online screen and I just see a list. Sometimes I feel like it's a list of things to do or a list of things I haven't gotten to do yet. And so sometimes I just like mentally just kind of check out and I'm like, oh, like, really? Like, I just spent all this time and I still have like all the stuff I haven't done or looked through. So for me personally, I like things to be offline when it's possible, when it's reasonable, when it's cost effective. I'm not a big fan of printing a lot of things, just because I find a lot of times people print things and then the paperwork gets lost, or they don't have a good organization system, or a lot of times they might only need 10% of what was on that page. So as far as finding a source that's really vetted and really good, to me that's really important. You'll often find times too, like depending upon where you get your list of scholarships, it makes a huge difference. So for example, we'll compare two lists. You might get one list from, say, you find something at your public library. Well, your public library is going to appeal to a much larger audience. So they're going to have a lot more scholarships for a wide range of people versus at a high school, they're serving their students. So all the scholarships on that list are going to be more vetted and geared towards high school students. And so that's the difference of lists. Like, yes, it's not to say that the quality per se is better, but it's more about what is a good fit. So in that case, that's a great example of something that I would absolutely love to have a paper list because it's easier to manage. And oftentimes on a piece of paper, they can list multiple scholarships. They'll usually give like the title, like a brief description of it. So it's really easy to go through really quickly. They might have like 10 scholarships per page or more, depending upon the font and the description of it. So it's a great way to just go pick up a piece of paper. Oftentimes they don't mind. It's might be 5 to 10 pages, and it's a great way to quickly go through a lot of scholarships. All right, so as far as my conclusion for this whole thing is, yes, there's a lot of resources out there. There's a lot to do, but there's a learning curve in learning how to do it. Certainly, I say learn from people who've been successful, who've gone ahead before you and had the type of results that you want. And, I am that person. If you're looking for scholarships, again, I won over $70,000 from grants and scholarships to pay for my own college education. And I will say that, yes, there are a lot of things that work, but they also work to varying levels and degrees, and not everything works equally as well. And so, based upon what I know about your family, being stressed for time and wanting to know what the best resources are, that's where you're going to have the most success. So, I encourage you to start with a handful of things rather than trying anything and everything, because your family's gonna get caught up in being super busy and overwhelmed when your family could be focused and only focusing on the strategies and resources that are gonna give your child the best results. And that's really what I want you to think about is, what would your life look like if your child participated in something like a scholarship challenge? Like, what would it look like if you didn't have to search through all these different resources to try and figure out which one's going to be the best fit or which one do you start first? What would your life look like if you had that peace of mind that you have a simple plan that just needs to be implemented and it takes a little bit of time every day? What would your life look like if you knew that, your child had a couple years till they graduated till high school and they had time to go through and look for scholarships and start applying, and it would be kind of like a savings account where your child could build up money, prepay for college. I mean, I think that would be awesome. And that's pretty much why I want to extend a very special invitation to you. And so that's why I'd like to tell you about the Scholarship Challenge, which is currently priced at $27. And it is a 30-day challenge. And it's designed for your child to spend 10 minutes a day looking through scholarships for 30 days. So at the end of 30 days, your child will have a list of scholarships to apply to. And they'll also be organized in order based upon their deadlines, thanks to some handy dandy that your child can have access to. I will teach your child how to use a certain tool that they may have heard about in school, but may not be paying much attention to. because I've heard from the children that I've worked with and coached that a lot of times when they're in school, they don't understand why they're learning a particular tool. So they just kind of learn it just to get the grade, but they don't really see how they're going to implement it and use it. And that's what I like about a challenge is that it's challenging your child to say, this is a tool, it's going to make your life simpler. So take, less than 10 minutes to learn how to use this tool, and it will save you a lot of time. It'll make your life easier. And that's really what it comes down to, because then their kid will start seeing technology as, hey, this is something that can help me make my life easier. I'm more interested in it, or this is how I can use it in my profession. So they start paying more attention when they're in school, learning about certain software programs at school. But the challenge is also designed for you as a parent so that you get to better understand the financial aid system, how it works, what to expect, and then what you can do so your family can qualify for more financial aid. I know that when I originally did to apply, my family made too much money to qualify for financial need. And so my mom was really smart and asked her CPA some great questions, and we were able to shift some things around so that I did qualify for more financial need. And that's how I was able to get a lot more money for school. Story, my tips and tricks, and things in detail in this challenge, which is why I'm really excited. And I really want you to get started with this now rather than waiting till your child's a junior or senior in school, which most people tend to start there because that's what they think, oh, we're preparing for college. But the reality is, there's a lot of scholarships that are being offered for kids that are in freshman year, sophomore year of high school. So why miss out on all that free money? So I do want to say that there is a bonus if you sign up before a certain date. There is a deadline, which is on the deadline is November 21st, 2017 at 11:59 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And pretty much I realized that while putting together this challenge, like, yes, I share my story and what worked for my family, but I know going through it, you might have some questions about what's going to work for your family. And so I thought I would invite two experts who work with families and have a lot more experience with different types of families and different types of situations to go ahead and answer your questions. So there's going to be two gentlemen, one by the name of Dan Everett from College Money Pro, and the other one is Daniel Hertzberg from Accelerated Educational Solutions, and he focuses a lot on the academic scholarships. So these are great, wonderful people. They both have amazing amount of information and knowledge because they've worked with families from a variety of backgrounds, helping them overcome the roadblocks that they have. And I really want you to have the opportunity to get your questions answered, and sometimes you might not know what the right questions are to ask, or what you should be asking, which is why I put together this challenge, because it does provide the questions, but it also provides the answers, and it gets you thinking about, okay, well, what about my family situation? It helps you better understand the entire process so it's less scary and you can move through it more quickly and easily. And then you can get the advice that's specific for your family and your family situation. So once again, I will tell you, or I will share with you, to go ahead and go to the scholarship challenge and enroll your family for $27, and then to go ahead and do that by the deadline of November 21st so that you can go ahead and have access and ask your questions to them. So I'm thinking at this point in time, we'll probably have some kind of webinar. I do want people to submit their questions just so that we can see how many of the questions come up repeatedly to help understand the urgency of which questions people have commonly come up, to make sure that we can put together like a frequently asked questions section, and then also to give you the opportunity to ask things that are specific for your family. So thank you so much for your time, and I will look forward to our paths crossing again soon. Take care.